This first group on the racetrack will probably have a little bit of struggle, but we're about to find out.
And there's no time for that pressure that you talk about, Kevin. I mean, we're going to have a very fast practicing, more importantly, qualifying session. This one lap is going to determine whether, A, you make the race and go home and start up front where you need to be to win this race, in my opinion.
Yeah, because of the weather delays, the schedule has been condensed. But the field is broken into 3 groups for practice. They'll each get 3 8-minute practice sessions once the green flag waves, as is happening right now. Final practice sets the top 20 starting positions for the main event. The heat races have been canceled due to the delays in the schedule. So that means the rest of the field moves to the last chance qualifier, where only 2 cars will advance through 75 green flag laps.
Let's go to this track condition right here, Kevin. I mean, there has been a massive amount of work on this, getting the preparation done for the facility and this track surface. We've had brine on it. We've probably had salt. We've had trucks. We've had everything on this thing. What do these guys have in store for themselves?
Well, they're going to start to lay down some rubber. And I think right now, at the beginning of this session, you need to run these tires into the second session as well. So you want to take care of the tires as much as you can so you have something to practice on that's decent for the second practice. But most importantly, we got to get these drivers, just like you see Connor Zilic right there, wrapping that curb. Wrap that curb is very important right here, right next to that concrete.
Well, let's go to him. Sell him a little bit, Mike. New opportunity here for Connor.
Set some new records in what is now the O'Reilly Series. Last year, didn't win the championship, but moves up to Cup for a full season here. I would say arguably the most heralded prospect since Jeff Gordon.
I would agree, and I've watched Connor race from go-karts and all the things that he's done, and he's won at everything that he's been in. And this is exactly what you don't want to do at the start of this session. All part of the learning curve, but very easy to lock those tires up. We have weepers running across the racetrack, but what happens when you start to lock that tire up, it gets that flat spot on the tire, and it finds it every other time that you start going to the brakes. So definitely want to take care of the tires.
All right, now the field has been broken into groups, and Larry McReynolds, our crew chief, can explain why these drivers are on the track now and who comes out when.
Yeah, Mike, we've got 38 drivers, 38 teams here, broken into the 3 groups. And how they were set into groups was how they finished in owner points in 2025. The group you see out there right now, that was the lowest in points. The next group will be the next highest, and those final 12, group number 3, that's the top 12 in owner points. And Kevin and Clint talked about it. Laying that fast lap in that final session, 4 minutes to cut that lap, because history says in quarter mile racetracks, if you want to win it, you better start in the first 2 rows, Regan.
Well, Larry Mack, I can tell you back here in the garage area, it has been absolute chaos on the racetrack so far, right? But a little bit calmer today in the garage area. These teams know what to expect. They know what's coming for them compared to last year when everything at the Clash was brand new and we didn't know what was going to take place. So drivers that are not in the groups out there right now, they have piled into the race cars. They're getting in there. It's a little bit warmer in the cars. I think they want to get in early, guys, and just have a moment to think about what they're getting ready to go do.
Thanks, Regan. Now remember, we're using owner points to set these groups. So teams that leased charters last year and have a different charter this year, in particular, Ryan Preece is disadvantaged because he is out there on the points the 51 car earned last year, while Rick Ware Racing has the points from the 60. It would take the whole practice session to explain, so I won't, but we do have other changes.
Yeah, and there's one right there. You're looking at Daniel Suarez in a 7 car this year. New opportunity for him at Spire Motorsports, and so far so good. Third on the sheet.
And you see Cal Ripken Senior Foundation on the side of that car do a lot of great work with a lot of fields. We've done a lot of work with the Kevin Harvick Foundation, with the Ripken group, and fun to see them on the side of that race car. But for Daniel, this is very important. Get to know your team, get to know the race cars. We talked about it a lot with Chase Briscoe last year. The brake pedal feels different. The way that the teams do things are a little bit different in those nuances. And this race is super important for that 7 team to be able to get all those things worked out before they fire off in Daytona.
He just passed Burt Myers, who has 102 victories in modifieds on this racetrack. All right, boys, quiz time. What 2 drivers in this field have regularly raced modifieds at Bowman Gray?
Well, I know one's Burt Myers.
And the other is Cody Ware.
Wow.
Yeah, he grew up in High Point. He and his brother, in fact, his brother Carson, won a modified race here, something Cody's not been able to do. So you got two mod regulars here that know their way around the madhouse pretty well.
I know Priest has showed up here a few times as well. How about Riley Herbst? We haven't really talked about him much, obviously, last year with his new season, but looking pretty sporty so far here at the madhouse, Kev.
Yeah, and when you talk about Riley, you've got a year under your belt now. You've got all those learning curves out of the way. You look at him and this team, see him down as low as you can get. We saw a lot of guys do that last year, but gets that left rear on the curb as you come up off the corner and you slide the back out. So we know that the fast laps in these cars are going to come around lap 10, but for Riley, in his second year, I think the expectations have definitely grown. A lot of pressure off this 2311 team without the lawsuit and everything that has happened over the last year and a half. So looking for some improvement out of this 35.
Let's go back to that, what you saw there on the curving on the bottom of this racetrack. Kind of unique. There really isn't an out of bounds. There's grass, and then there's drains down there, and he actually was clear down, had the left rear in the grass when it got loose up off the corner.
Now, coming out of turn 4, we see a lot of drivers hook that left front wheel, a tire, down there on the curbing. What does that gain you?
Well, let me show you why you do that. Look at this wall right here.
Yeah.
That is exactly, see how the natural transition, the rubber right there, if you watch them, it takes you right out by that wall. If you don't hook that and get a straight drive off, you really struggle to have the speed down the straightaways.
And we saw two different styles last year, Mike. You heard me talk at the opening about wrapping that curb, and you see the 16 car here of AJ Allmendinger kind of up in the middle of the corner. I think the two ends they vary a little bit because of that notch out in the wall. You want to be straight up off the corner to be able to get the power down to make speed.
I think he was saving his tires. Just saw AJ just pull off the racetrack, Kevin. Before this practice session, it's P&Q. We were talking about it, and you told me you probably look for some of these guys saving their tires. Why?
Well, you got to practice them in the second session, and you got to be able to get a good read on your car in that second session. I think that this first group is probably at the biggest disadvantage because of the track being green. And when we say the track being green, having no rubber on the racetrack. So to be able to get your car dialed in, you got to have those tires underneath you. And on these green racetracks like this, it will tear up the tires more than when it gets rubber.
About a minute to go in this first practice session. Each group will have 3 rounds of practice. The final practice will be qualifying.
And I don't know about you, Clint, but these first practice sessions of the year always made my heart rate get a little bit higher than all the rest of the practice sessions during the year, because especially today, you know that you've got to lay down those perfect laps. And the hard part for a lot of these guys, they probably haven't raced anything for the most part since they got out of the car at the end of last year. So getting that last 10th out of the car is always something that you talk about in mid-season form. But today, it's going to be the main priority today is make the race.
Especially on a short track. These things are rhythmatic. You have to find your rhythm, get in a rhythm, and make this place slow it down. This is a very fast racetrack. Things happen so fast. No more than you come out of the corner, you're already setting up for the next entrance. So you have to be able to slow this thing down, find that rhythm, and it starts as soon as you get on the racetrack.
And it happens fast. We see our session over right here. A lot of guys have run 30, 31 laps. So a lot happens in a short amount of time.
Now, of the 13 drivers that have been on the track, half of them ran their fastest lap in the first 10 laps of the session. Cole Custer, fastest of all. Welcome back to Bowman Gray Stadium and the clash of 26. Group 2 is on track now, and when they appear on your scoring pylon, you see Group 1 is gray, and the cars that are on the track are in bold in white. And that's how we're going to do it.
Well, a couple things that we got to keep an eye on, Clint. We saw some fall off. We saw 8 to 12 was when you're going to run your fastest laps. And now that we've seen one group on the racetrack, we got the next group on with a little cleaner, more rubbered up racetrack than the first group had. So we got to keep an eye on the fall off.
Why are we seeing more fall off, Kev?
Well, we got to remember these cars have more horsepower this year. So we didn't hear a lot from the drivers as far as it being a difference, but when Larry broke down a lot of the statistics of how much faster you're going at the end of the straightaway, using more brake, all those things matter, which could result in some of the fall off that we're seeing in that first practice.
So, Larry, how about horsepower and gearing here for Bowman Gray?
Yeah, Mike, up until this year, in all tracks outside of super speedways like Atlanta, Daytona, and Talladega, we ran 670 horsepower everywhere. And the way NASCAR regulates that horsepower is not a restrictor plate, it's a tapered spacer under the throttle body. The drivers have been asking for more power, so in 2026, all tracks under 1.5 miles, start right here at Bowman Gray, plus the road courses, it's a bigger taper spacer, 750 horsepower, which is 80 more. And if you watch our broadcast tonight on Fox, I'll show you that, and I'll show you all the things that go along with increasing horsepower.
Thanks, Larry. Now, you note the 6 car, that is not Brad Keselowski. Brad had an accident on a ski trip, but not while he was on skis. Had a leg injury. He is healing up. He plans to race Daytona, but they've kept him on a very, very short leash. So Corey LaJoie is the designated substitute driver for RFK Racing, and he will be in the 6 tonight.
Well, Corey obviously has a lot of experience, and as you see Brad here going through his rehab, tough time of year to have to do all of this and be ready. And obviously missing this race gives him an extra couple weeks to be able to put himself back together. So we hope Brad gets everything where it needs to be by Daytona.
I'm sorry, but that is sad Brad right there. I know that's not the way he wanted to start this year off.
Looks like it hurt. That Alex Bowman is 48 car, showing some muscle here early. Fast hot rod, Kev. Whoa, yeah. Look out, coming through. Austin's pretty quick too, as a matter of fact.
Watch that 3 car. I was down at RCR the other day, and that car was on the surface plate, just getting its final tune-up. Johnny Morris.
Look at that, Kevin.
Yeah. The paint scheme on this, and you know just what it looks like.
Yeah, that Goodwrench paint scheme that we had that you see on the side of Austin's car right there. We ran from like 2003 to 2006. Always one of our best looking Goodwrench paint schemes that we've had. So good to see that on the side of Austin's car. But he's been really good on these short tracks. We know that he won at Richmond the last couple years. So we expect him to do exactly what he's doing right now and have decent speed.
Man, that thing does bring back a lot of memories. That was my teammate, first teammate, Mike.
Wow.
Right there, it looked just like that, didn't it, Kev?
It did.
All right, Alex Bowman, get a look at this.
Well, you don't have a lot of time. I know it's practice. These cars are pretty tough with the way that the bodies and the bumpers and everything are, and that's just part of the process right here. And you know you're going to get 30 laps, and you don't want to waste 2 or 3 laps of your tires getting a read on your car. So I like the aggression early out of Alex Bowman.
All right, let's check with Regan.
Well, Mike, after that first session, Noah Gregson, one of the only drivers to actually hop out of your race car after that first practice session. What did you think about the racetrack, your car, and your new crew chief, Grant Hutchins, so far?
Yeah, kind of shaking down that first runner, our crew member, number 4, Ford Mustang. Dark horse is, it's cold. There's probably a bunch of brine on the racetrack. It was pretty slick. So we see the times, they keep getting faster and faster. I'm sure this next session, the track will gain a little bit of grip, but just wanted to shake it down, see kind of what we had, kind of fighting the same thing we had last year. Luckily, we made the race last year, and we're looking to go at it again.
All right, good luck. Thanks.
Thanks, Regan. So here in the Carolinas, it's not like up north where it snows and then you salt the roads and you plow. They put brine down on the highways when snow or sleet is expected, and that keeps it from sticking to the road. Well, they did the racetrack too here about a week ago, and of course Mother Nature had other ideas, but I don't see any trace of it remaining.
Truth be told, the racetrack itself has been the best scenario of the whole winter mess, right? I mean, It was the roads getting here and everything, all the infrastructure in between, getting people here. It was a mess up here. I live here. Mike, you live here in Winston-Salem. It's still bad. Kids still aren't in school.
A lot of the side roads still have not been plowed, and there's been no school for a week and a half. So the racetrack was ready, getting people to the racetrack, especially from the Charlotte area where they had as much as 15 inches of snow. Well, that's another story.
How's our fall off looking, Kevin? Looks like they're still falling off, just like they did in that first run.
Yeah, and this group has their fast speeds are a little bit later than on most of the cars than what we saw in the first group. So seems to be a little less fall off, but they're still migrating in that direction of more fall off. So looks to be a consistent theme.
I think the track's definitely, obviously, cleaning up, getting some temperature in it, helping these Goodyear tires gain grip. So the speeds are going up, as you see in this group, but definitely that fall off is, I think these softer tires, more horsepower, is a good combination for these cars in the Cup Series.
Larry?
Yeah, if you look, Cole Custer in the 41 car, he was the fastest in that first group, and he's all the way back to 9th. The top 8 is in this group. I talked to Paul Wolf, Joe Logano's crew chief, this morning. They'll be in that 3rd group. He said, Larry, I feel like because of temperature, heat in the racetrack, rubber on the racetrack, this track will continue to get faster, even through the qualifying sessions.
Watching Kyle Busch in the 8 car, coming off a winless season and rededicated to getting back to victory lane this year. New crew chief Jim Pullman. So they'll get to work together. He has the best long run average of anybody in this group, and looks like the cars ahead might be holding him up just a little bit here.
Well, I know that we want to talk about the long run average, but the main race today is make the race. That car has got to take off in that last practice session and fire off in those first 10 laps in order to get yourself qualified into that top 20.
Make the race, Kevin, man. The 8 car is flying out there. He's fast. He's good on a short run. He's good on a long run. I think he would make the race. We're ready to start up front, baby.
Well, I definitely like the way that Kyle's car looks, and we talked about Austin Dillon, so obviously those cars are handling well. But I'm telling you, this whole thing is going to get shook up when the money's on the line, and you got to put down those laps to make that top 20.
Time for one more lap here if you want to try anything. One more lap.
All right, this will be it for round 1 of Group 2.
I like what he said right there. If you want to try anything, what can you try on here? You alluded to it a little bit earlier, Kevin. Diamond in the corner, wrap in the bottom. This is a hard track to get a hold of. Very flat as a picnic table. You have to be able to roll the corner so you free that thing up, but it'll get loose on the throttle. Have to be careful with that.
Chris Buescher was fastest here last year, qualified 2nd and won his heat. He's fastest right now.
Proper last time.
Welcome back to Bowman Gray, where some of the drivers have been watching us on the Fox Sports app as they get ready to roll here. Puts the viewer count at, I don't know, 24 already. Oh, Chase Elliott came out on track, went right back to the pits. They needed to secure something with the fueling.
The fuel cap was still on the 9, so they had to take that off. So not the way that you want to start your first practice. Great way to save your tires. I wish there would have been a little more strategy behind that, but he's back on the racetrack and trying to find a clear spot now.
Last year's winner of the Clash. And Joey Logano, who won out in California when we raced at the LA Coliseum. New look for Joey Logano.
It's sleek. But when you talk about Joey Logano, you think about a winner. And when I think about these types of scenarios, and we talk about him last year, and getting their team back on the track, and you see the 45 car, Tyler Reddick, right behind him. The 22 car in itself, those are the guys that perform when the lights are the brightest and early in the year and can figure things out. And so Joey is just one of those hard-nosed racers that's he's not afraid to use the bumper, and we talk about Fords and all that. They don't care about all that. They're problem solvers, and they figure it out, and obviously he has the championships to go behind that. So look for him to be a contender tonight.
Yeah, just like they were last year. Both of those cars right there were very fast last year.
Chase Briscoe has speed. Ooh, Ross Chastain just pips him for the fastest lap so far. Again, in white are the drivers who are on track now. Drivers from the earlier groups in gray.
I'm excited for Chase Briscoe this year. I obviously, unbelievable first year out for Joe Gibbs Racing and Briscoe, the pairing there, but I think you're going to see a lot of noise out of him, see him in victory lane several times. It just might be tonight.
The hard part about what they did last year is that intensity, that enthusiasm, that preparation. Nothing else matters going to the racetrack. How do you carry that enthusiasm into another year and every single week? With our point system, as we get to Daytona, we'll explain that more, but with our point system, getting those finishes and grinding out those days and not having those DNFs, and them being in their second year, that carrying that enthusiasm and intensity on a week-to-week basis will be more important this year than it ever has been.
That's a great point, and it can go either way. We've seen it in early, the first year out, come out like gangbusters and then fall off or struggle a little bit and just keep getting better like a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, if you will.
Well, let's talk about that, because you fellas have both won championships in different forms of racing. What's the difference in driving between winning you're in and no bad days?
Well, I think it's a big difference in my opinion, because those bad days, and we'll talk about Kyle Larson having a lot of DNFs, and we'll talk about guys that can grind it out like Joey Logano and Ross Chastain. Both of those guys are grinders. But how do you not put yourself in a position where you're going to wreck, and where you would have put yourself in that position before and not caring, right? Because you have some mulligans, but now you don't have any mulligans as you go through all those points matter, as much as I know that you, my friend, don't like to hear that.
Well, in my opinion, that's changed over the years. When we grew up racing, you did chase points. You took care of your car. You had to get it to the end. It was always about, you know, especially when I raced in the weekly racing series of NASCAR, it was all about the year-end points fund money. That's what funded our following year. And to be able to do that, you had to be able to finish every single weekend without a doubt, first and foremost. Obviously being victory lane, but these kids, today's day and age, it's all about winning. I like that we have consistency playing a role back in this sport.
And this guy right here, Chase Elliott, does it as good as anybody.
Yep.
He's a finisher. He's consistent, and that's been the thing that hurt him the most in the old point system. But he won this race last year, and we'll talk about that as we go through the night. But you see right there, he's up off the curb. Ryan Blaney's right on the curb. But I believe that was his advantage last year, was he was able to diamond the corner just a little bit and get that exit straighter than anybody else, and get that power down consistently and gain that speed down the straightaway.
And he's got a crew chief who knows, maybe better than anybody here, how to make good days out of average days. Oh, Shane Van Gisbergen into the fast five.
One to the 97 minutes right away again.
Now, Denny Hamlin ran a slow lap and then picked it back up again.
Yeah, I think he's just looking for a hole here. He actually came in and then went back out. This car was really strong last year. I look for him to make some noise here tonight. Obviously, a lot of experience, really good race car driver.
Well,
hungry. They got one taken from him last year. He's got to be more hungry than ever to put some of this to bed. Probably going to feel good. He's had a tough off season, obviously, for so many reasons, and probably feels good to put that helmet back on and get out of it.
Well, and you know, as a race driver, Clint, there's nothing better than being inside the race car.
Therapy.
You only focus on what you're doing while you're sitting in that seat. Denny Hamlin's a prepper. He's one of the hardest working guys in the garage. I think that'll be interesting to see where he's at from a preparation standpoint as you start the season. But these little bull rings like that, these are right in his wheelhouse. We know how good he is at Martinsville, well, pretty much anywhere. But we know his bread and butter through the years has been a lot of these short tracks. So we look for him to do just like he did last year and be in contention as this evening goes on.
So Bob's IPO drops tonight. I wonder if that's coincidence or something in the planning. I'm not sure.
Bubba Wallace, 2311, looking pretty good. Good looking hot rod.
Bubba got to victory lane last year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know, I think that there's some of these guys like Bubba that are in that territory of needing to be consistent winners, not just every once in a while. I think that we saw a great year out of this team with the crew chief change and everything that they did. And you can't beat experience in this sport, Mike, and you're never going to overcome that. So another year of going through the things that you went through in the previous year and being able to put yourself back in that seat with most of the same group of people, that matters to be able to have that experience. So we're looking for Bubba to get to victory lane a couple times. I know that's what they want to do, but they definitely knocked a big one off the checklist last year at Indy.
And as you said near the top of the show, less distractions this year. The lawsuit has settled. It's gone away. So 2311 front row. Let's concentrate on winning and running well without any of those distractions.
I want to point out right here on the pylon, if you look, manufacturer battle. Obviously, with Chevrolet having a new body out here this year, Kevin, in 2026, it's really no distinct advantage anyway. You got a Chevy there, Toyota, Ford's in the hunt here, kind of all over the place, mixed bag as far as speed within the manufacturers.
Clint, we're at Bowman Gray. The only advantage to having a body is hoping it's still on there when we're done.
You ask him. I watched this race. He was telling me, do not mess this car up. It matters, even at 10 miles an hour.
Ross Chastain quickest.
I'd say Hamlin, Logano. I think Blaney is, I mean, he had a little spell at the beginning of the year last year where he had some things go wrong, but
like
he's usually super consistent. So Blaney, I think William Byron has ventured into that category.
Chase Elliott?
Chase Elliott, I mean, when you look at his stats, I mean, they're finishers. They're old school racers, and I think that style of racing is going to matter.
Join Kevin every Tuesday and Thursday for one of NASCAR's top podcasts. He gives his expert opinion on top storylines and brings the biggest names in sports and entertainment to the racing world. Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour.
I think we're looking to have Clint have his own segment. I think you need to come down there every week, Clint. What do you think?
What's it pay?
Nothing.
No, no chance. I'll tune in. How about that?
Okay. All right. There's your 10 fastest drivers through round 1 of practice. Regan?
Well, Mike, something interesting to keep an eye on as this group number 1 goes back out for their second practice session. A number of these cars, I would say 50% of the cars in this group have actually swapped over to sticker tires, and I'm seeing some other cars as they're just coming off of the racetrack in groups 2 that have done that as well. Why would you do that? Well, that's the importance of qualifying that we're going to see here when it comes time for the third session. Go ahead and use up the tires right now, because if you don't qualify good, you may not have to worry about the main event later on, Larry.
Yeah, Regan, I'm a little confused about putting a set of stickers on right now, because you've got these 3 sessions, and you definitely want a set of stickers for that session 3 you're qualifying. If you don't get in the top 20, you want a set of stickers for the last chance qualifier, and then 2 sets as far as the clash itself, because you're going to change at the break. So I'd be a little concerned about putting a second set of stickers on here.
I agree, Larry, and I like your 2001 NASCAR on Fox jacket. That's very cool, that logo.
It's nice and warm. That's all that matters.
You got it. All right, we have a little pause in the action because the track crew is dealing with weepers in turn number 3. That big berm to the end of the grandstand there, the snowpack that has been there. Well, snow melts, it's got to go somewhere, and gravity works.
Yeah, and this one right here is about exactly where the right side tires are, so that one's problematic for sure.
And a lot of that snow too is in between those barriers, you know, in between the wall and the safer barriers. So, you know, a lot of that is just going to sit there and leak. So it's definitely something that the drivers were mentioning. So they're going to address it, and I would assume that it's probably not the last time they will address it.
Temperature today about 45 degrees, so the snow melting is going to continue, and so will practice right after this.
This competition is about character, about fortitude, and about the old-fashioned giving a. Are you here to fight and win for Colleague, win for Ram, and change your lives forever?
Go get that money, boy! This is all I've ever wanted to do since I was a kid.
There's no friends on the racetrack.
Oh, we gotta spin!
If you want to make friends, go to summer camp.
Oh, we missed it! Oh, they're landing each other! Oh, 3 wide! 3 wide!
This is everything. It's do or die.
Have a look at what's happened here over the last 11 days. A snow-covered Bowman Gray Stadium. And then, beginning Monday, well, they tried to clean it all off. And Justin Swilling and his crew from NASCAR, folks from Winston-Salem State. There were even people from the local minor league hockey team shoveling seats here as the sun came out.
Heck, they should have
got this track all ready.
Could have played hockey here for quite a while. Several days.
I don't know that I've ever seen him use the jet dryer on the grass, but.
All right, now help me, because I'm a New England boy. I spent 40-some years in New England. I have never, ever, until this week, used a leaf blower to move snow.
Well, I learned spending some time in Wyoming that when it happened, you could use the leaf blower, and you better use it quickly, because when it packs together, you're not moving it without a shovel, and that leaf blower is way easier than a shovel.
Yeah, the second snowstorm we got was just light and fluffy, and got about 8 inches at the house, and you could do just that.
Well, we've seen them working on these weepers, and right under this camera that we're looking at right now going into turn 1, there's also a weeper that is all the way across the racetrack. And I think at this point, they're like, well, fellas, I think you're just going to have to deal with it. And you see that one has run all the way down the racetrack and got a fresh stream. So there are some, it's like Mario Kart. You're going to have to go around the hazards or through them.
All right, let's check with Regan.
Well, Mike, Ryan Blaney, one of the drivers that has climbed out of his car, the new look Ryan Blaney this year. Ryan, I got to ask you, you were part of the show last year, going from last to almost winning the Clash. Looks like the 7th quick right now. Maybe a little bit less work for you to do this year?
It's still early. Don't say anything yet, but no, it's just nice to be back in a car. You know, I haven't been in a car since Phoenix. I didn't do any testing in the wintertime, so it's nice just to get back in the swing of things and all that stuff. But yeah, I thought it's still early. Track's still laying a little rubber down, so it's just going to get a little faster and faster. But yeah, I thought our Great Lakes Menard Ford Mustang was pretty decent. Obviously, a little bit of work to do. I'd like it to hang on a little bit longer. I thought it fired decent, and we just need to keep some drive in it later in the run. But yeah, it's nice to be here. Props to the racetrack and NASCAR for putting a lot of work in over the last handful of days to get us here. Appreciate the fans all being out here, and it's just nice to get the year started again.
Mike, we were talking before we came on camera, watching all that snow. It was a lot of fun, but man, a lot of work.
And nobody knows what that car needs better than him. Last year drove from the back all the way to the front. I did not think that was possible, Kevin, but he sure did it.
Well, Ryan has become notorious for being the guy that is the long run guy. He's definitely been the one carrying the banner for Ford. I know Logano has been hit or miss, but from a consistency standpoint, Ryan Blaney has been the guy for the Fords and has a great long run pace.
All right, now earlier we talked about drivers putting on sticker tires for this session. We kind of questioned that, and Larry, as always, has answers.
Well, Todd Gilliland in the 34 car, he's one of the drivers and teams that elected to put the stickers on. I talked to his crew chief, Chris Lawson. I said, Chris, the math doesn't work out with only 5 sets of tires. He said, Larry, we're worried about one thing and one thing only, our fire-off speed on stickers. We've got to get in the top 20 in that 3rd session. He said, we'll worry about the race when we get there. He said, we can start the Clash on some light lap scuffs.
Well, there's your different agendas right there in a nutshell. And Kevin, you alluded to it earlier. I think some of these teams we have to make the show first and foremost, and certainly Gilliland in that 34 car. That's goal number 1. I think obviously some of these cars that were extremely fast have a good setup underneath of them off of last year. Those guys probably have a little bit different agenda in mind.
Well, and as these first 3 sessions cycled through, all of these cars, Cole Custer was the first one in 21st. He was the highest ranking car from that first session. So these guys are already at a disadvantage because of being in that first group. And the main part of today, you got to make the race. So I see where they're coming from on making sure that their car will fire off so they can qualify well.
Since we all thought that Group 1, Run 1 would kind of be a throwaway because it was a totally green racetrack, I understand what Larry's saying and why these teams really didn't know what they had at the end of Run 1. So now, with fresh tires on, they should be all dialed into qualifying in run number 3.
Well, it's going to be an uphill battle because it's almost like you get behind, right? When you're that first group on the racetrack and you got to get the racetrack prepared, you don't really get a good read on your car. It tears up your tires. And that's why most of the higher ranking cars in points were in the last group. And you see that on the scoring chart here, except for Cole Custer. He's up to 14th now. Everybody else is kind of down the list on this sheet.
I've been watching Noah here, Gregson, in that 4 car. He's really struggling with the point in his race cars. Doesn't really want to roll the middle of the corner. But let's give some props to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He was here with Gilliland shoveling snow beforehand, and I was watching him a little bit earlier. Had a big lock up and slid up the racetrack, struggling with the handle. Here it is right here, getting into 3. Boy, that thing did not. That was getting pretty close to the wall there, Kevin.
Well, that left front tire gets light when the car goes down on a banking under braking. I'll spit it out in a minute. And that left front tire gets light, but it's like we talked earlier. When you lock up that tire, it finds that flat spot, and it's almost one of the most detrimental things that you can do to the car is get that flat spot on the tire, because it affects how much you can brake and how hard you can brake going forward. But very easy to do.
The other thing I saw right there with him in that wheel lockup is he had his wheels turned. You want to try to get as much braking done as possible under straight conditions while you're still straight in the corner. Come off the brake, let that car do its work and do its thing, roll in the center of the corner if the setup allows.
Well, you see those new tires going by a couple cars right there on the 34 car. So we obviously have noted that there is some fall off with what we have going on with the horsepower and the softer left side tire and everything that we have going on with the changes. So there's definitely some things that are going to affect how much fall off we have tonight.
So this is Group 1, practice round number 2. Next time these cars are on track, and they will be split into 2 groups for qualifying. So there'll only be 6 or 7 cars on track at a time when we go to qualify.
Well, you said it first, Mike. 6 or 7.
Oh no, did I?
I have kids, so
yes,
you know those silly sayings just instantly ring a bell in my mind.
Inside. You're clear behind them.
Yeah, you see Daniel Suarez going by his old teammate right there, SVG. Shane Van Gisbergen right there. He actually did really well here last year, and I think when you talk about his road racing background and everything that he has going on, definitely fits his driving style and the things he does with the brake pedal.
Whoa, Daniel Suarez just got in the back of Riley Herbst there to move him up out of the groove. That's the way you pass here at Bowman Gray, and made it work. 2 minutes to go.
You got to remind me, Clint, right in the middle of those things, we got a number switch. That's Zilich.
And those cars are tough. I did it last year with Suarez. The paint schemes are kind of the same. The numbers are the same. It's all good. We got Connor Zilich. That's going to be a fun car to watch.
See if this is where the 7 helps himself to the bottom lane and a little more. Okay.
Persuasion.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like I said earlier, these cars are tough, and you can lean on each other, and you're going to have to be aggressive to win this race and pass cars and do the things that you need to do. But as fast as these laps are clicking off in practice, your patience needs to be short.
Ricky, I've been watching him in the 47. That car is giving him fits under braking, getting into the corners. See him looking to the inside of Riley. Probably a little bit nervous with that wheel lockup too, but you definitely need to get him a little more comfortable.
And you see right there, he's down on those drains. Below each strip, there are drains, and the thing that you'll notice about that is the car bounces around a lot. There's little curbs on the inside down there, but when you get too low into the drain, it really pops that left front up, and you see the front of the car moving around when he's on that, and you see him slide up off the corner off of turn 4.
I think you can hook the left front. When that left rear hits that drain is when that thing really scoots out from underneath of it.
Well, and you got to remember that the bump stops and everything are set as low as they can go, so when you start hitting those bumps and those stops start bottoming out in the shocks, that's really when the car starts to hop around and do things that you don't want it to do, and then it's not turning and bouncing, and it makes it hard to get through the center of the corner. And then you want to rush the throttle, and then it snaps the back out. So a lot of things can happen when that car starts moving around like that with the bump stops.
All right, round 2 of practice for Group 1. Gets the red and black flag. Cole Custer, 14th overall, moving up here. Round 2 of practice continues at Bowman Gray. Welcome back to Bowman Gray, where Group 2 is on track for round 2 of practice. Chris Buescher was quickest in round 1. In this group, he is 9th overall. Alex Bowman 15th, Mike McDowell 16th, Ty Gibbs 17th.
Well, Josh Berry in this group, we know his short track racing background, and he is currently 29th on the board from the first session. So we expect this car to perform well on this style racetrack that we feel like suits what he does very well. So be interesting to see if they can make some improvements this session.
We need to invoke the spirit of Glenn Wood, who won races at Bowman Gray.
Oh, see him loose in the corner right there.
Is this maybe one of those cars would elected to throw those tires on it? And does your agenda change a little bit? Are you worried about this, Kevin, now that you're 29th? We got to make this race first and foremost.
I feel like the first group is almost in half of them are in desperation mode. I don't know that you know, this team of Josh Berry would be in that desperation mode yet.
You're not worried about it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
20 cars will qualify on time.
I am.
You're worried.
2 cars from the last chance qualifier that we will broadcast on Fox later on today. Larry?
Yeah, Mike, I'm at the mercy of looking over the wall and seeing if I see stickers on the tires when they first came out. I'm not going to say he's the only one, but the only one I did see stickers on is that 17 car of Chris Buescher.
Buescher looking for even more speed. He's now up to 10th overall, and Kyle Busch has jumped to 6th. Great lap for the number 8.
Well, they need a big year, and you know, I think for our sport in general, getting Kyle Busch back in victory lane would be a huge moment as you see him hit the fence right there.
That's what I thought I saw.
Yeah.
Sure did.
And those are the types of things that when it's going good, we've seen happen in the past that you got to steer away from, right? Like you can't make those. It's been those one mistakes, whether it's from Kyle, whether it's from the pit crew, whatever it is. But on a day like today where you see the speed in the race car, you just got to be able to go out there and make it happen without any mistakes.
Did he get in the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure did.
Going in the corner.
Just trying to get his arc as big as possible. But it shows you how tight the quarters are here.
Oh,
got it pretty good.
Well, I never really have noticed how far out until that camera view right there, getting into the corner, how much that wall kicks out. So that is definitely not something that's hard to do.
Now Kyle Busch is one of the cars that put sticker tires on for this session. Regan has more.
Yeah, Mike, there was actually a number of cars in this session that put stickers on. You just mentioned Kyle Busch. Larry mentioned Chris Buescher had stickers. We've got the 3 of Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric, and the 6 of Corey LaJoie, the 54 of Ty Gibbs. A lot of guys opting to go with this plan of putting the sticker tires on it. I can tell you I'm doing a quick glance of Group 3 that's about to go back out after this group right now, and every car I've looked at so far in Group 3, sticker tires.
It just shows you right there, Kevin, how much that wall does, even in turn 3, come out much like it does on the exit of 4 as well.
Well, I think what we've done is underestimate the what they are thinking as far as what the most important thing is for today. We were right, but I think that the teams are alarmed by making sure that they make this race and how much more important qualifying is today, because it's not like you're going to start in the back, Mike.
No.
You're going to put your stuff in the truck and go to the house. Oh, I love that in-car shot right there. You could really hear the car as it comes up off the corner. You could hear it whoa, 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 just kind of hopping up off the corner, and that's one thing you'll listen right here.
Baby's eating.
I shoot over the 51.
And what we were talking about earlier with those bump stops, a lot of times you'll get the timing of those stops and it'll not sit on those stops correctly in the back of the car, and that's what'll make it buck like that. And that's the biggest problem, is when you can't accelerate and get that drive up off the corner, those cars will start to hop like that.
He's also, well, he slid up in the water here, but he was doing it off of 4, and he's getting that left rear tire down on that grate, what we were talking about, the drain, and that's doing it. In 1 and 2, I noticed that it wasn't doing it, but that's those bump stops like you were talking about, as that thing hops through the bottom of the racetrack off the exit of turn 4.
Austin Cindric 22nd overall.
Well, notoriously in the past, we've seen this Ford group, when they don't have speed and then they put their cars in qualifying trim, typically pick up more than a lot of the other cars. So it'll be interesting when we get into this third group. This isn't a normal qualifying session where you just have 1 or 2 laps. You know, your fast lap today is going to be somewhere between 8 and 12, which that's probably going to, once we split these groups up into 2 groups for the last session here, that's probably about all you're going to get. You might get 15 laps, but the money laps are going to be, you know, that 8 to 10 lap mark, it looks like, with what we're seeing on the tires.
2 minutes to go in round 2 for Group 2 of 3 groups.
See Ty Gibbs right here. We've seen a lot of speed out of that car, and you see that car right around the bottom. John Hunter Nemechek in that 42 car right there. He's definitely been one of the worst cars as we've gone through practice. So they're really struggling with what they need in that 42 car right now to make some speed. And it's when you get to a racetrack like this, the times are so close, and you know, John Hunter Nemechek, his fast laps of 14:58 and the quick times of 14:25. So you're not you're splitting hairs, and that's what we talked about coming on to the broadcast, was how hard it is to get that last 1/10 and a half out of the car. Sometimes it's the driver, sometimes it's just getting the car right with the heights and the stops and everything that goes with it just to get it to drive right. So the fine tuning of drivers and cars and everything, that last 1/10 and a half is tough to get.
So Alex Bowman is 3rd quick in this group in this session. Chris Buescher fastest, Kyle Busch 2nd, Bowman 3rd, then McDowell, Gibbs, and Hocevar.
The picture is starting to get painted for me, guys. You look down that leaderboard here, there's some guys that are in trouble. 0.2 of a second quick time that is for this qualifying scenario that we're fixing to see here coming up is a lot on a racetrack like this. These guys are pretty nervous if you're over here on the right side of this board.
Yeah, and you've got some, like you say, you've got some big names over there. We expect Ryan Priest to be fast. He's a great short track racer. You've got Josh Berry, great short track racer. Connor Zilich in the 88. I got to remember that. You know, he's learning and has a lot of things going on. So there's going to be some miracle laps.
Yep.
There's going to be some miracle laps in that last session of guys that are going to surprise us. But there's going to be some names go home from this deal.
So some of these teams have work to do, and others are finding speed even when they're finding the wall, like Kyle Busch. Next week, NASCAR returns to Daytona to kick off the season and crown a Daytona 500 champ. The front row for the 500 will be set Wednesday, February 11th, 8 p.m. on FS1, and a full week of racing caps off with the Daytona 500 on Fox, February 15th, 2:30 Eastern Time. But if you found us here today, you know all that, and you've got your DVR all set and ready to go for Speed Weeks down in Daytona.
A lot of tires, sticker tires on these race cars right here. Let's keep an eye on these fast times, see if the business picks up.
Yeah, and they're treating it, I think what has happened, they're treating it like a normal weekend. In your last practice session, you go out on the racetrack and do your mock qualifying run and make sure that your car has what it needs for this qualifying session coming up.
Whoa. Happens fast. That wheel lockup slid up the racetrack quick.
Now we are told that all of the cars in this group are on sticker tires with one exception, Ross Chastain.
I think he did a good job of getting off the brakes and not locking that tire up on low air pressure, right? That's what I think you saw right there, is he just aborted off the brakes a little bit and let the car have its head and drive up the racetrack.
Well, the thing that Chase Elliott is really good at is getting that car pointed and up off the corner to be able to put the throttle down. And we talked about it earlier, to be able to get the power in the right spot. So we'll see if that translates to another win tonight.
Christopher Bell, top of the chart, 14.19 seconds.
Here they come. Blaney as well. Chastain, fast laps here.
Yeah, and what they're doing is they're going to pump their air pressures up to where they think they're going to be in this third session for their qualifying runs, and they're going to try to mimic that 8 to 10 laps where they think that sweet spot is in a tire, so that they have a firm understanding, knowing that the most important thing that you have to do today is make the race.
It's a good point, Kevin. They keep getting faster here. 19 and a 21, 225s, 26.
Here's Regan with the driver who was fastest in Group 2.
Well, that's right, Mike. Chris Buescher, good in the clash here last year. Actually won your heat race, finished 10th. Good again today so far. I want to ask you, though, we've been looking at the bumps in turn 4 quite a bit. Is it different than last year? Is it rougher over there, or what's going on?
I'm going to say our team's done a fantastic job, because I've been happier there. So they're there. Let's not get it mistaken, but I don't know. It's been okay. They're going to be there in the race for sure. That's definitely a tricky standpoint, but we're also not running far enough into runs in these 8-minute runs to see how much we're really going to be fighting them on the grip side. But yeah, from a ride quality standpoint, this fifth third bank Mustang's pretty good, and that's a decent start. A lot better practice than we had last year. So now we just got to keep the qualifying effort up.
All right, good luck in qualifying in a few moments.
He is 7th overall as the top 6 positions filled with drivers from this group. Although the fastest laps by Chastain and Reddick were set in the last session, not this one.
And you make a good point, Clint. As they have these tires set to what they think they're going to qualify with, those fast laps are coming a lot sooner.
Sure are. And that's what we're seeing there, coming fast. But that's what you have. We're going to have these cars on the racetrack only 4 minutes to be able to take off, and that's your qualifying lap. The fastest lap of that practice is going to be how they line up this race and send you home or make the race. Very important. A lot of challenges. This racetrack, what are the hard things? When you're trying to make a lap around a place like this, overdriving the car. #1 mistake.
Yeah, if you overdrive the car to the entry of the corner, that ruins the center of the corner, which pushes the exit around. You've got too much wheel into it, and that's when you see those snaps on the exit of the corner when you try to put the throttle down.
All because of the entrance. Do not overdrive that car.
Bell, Blaney, Briscoe are the fastest in this round of practice.
One thing that I noticed watching Christopher Bell's car earlier, he definitely had some moments where his car is loose into the corner. Typically on a racetrack like this, you want to run as much rear brake as possible to try to help that car rotate. So inside the race cars, the drivers are going to be busy with trying to keep their brake bias where it needs to be, because you want the back of that car to be right on the edge of being too loose getting in the corner, so that it has a little bit more rotation than too much front brake where you lock the front tire up or it makes the car tight.
And that's that setup as well. You want that thing as free as possible to roll these tight corners.
That was better, just need a little.
Such a fine line. Keep freeing me up too far. Laterally, it slides out from underneath me getting in. You need a car that can be aggressive on a track like this.
Yeah, and when you look at his wheel right here, you're going to notice him hold the wheel pretty straight. It's not like he's not turning the wheel until he gets to the end of that first third of the corner. It's like on the entry, he's holding the wheel straight.
Nervous.
Yeah. You're not turning back to the right, which is, you want to be right on that edge, but it definitely doesn't have a lot of wheel into it until he gets down to that curb for sure.
Now, look how nicely spaced these cars are in this session. Look, these are the champion level drivers right here. This is what you want to see in round number 3. Plenty of room to work forward and back, not to be impeded by anybody ahead of you, not to be occupied in your mirror with somebody trying to get by you. You need good, clean laps in that last session, and this group has spread themselves out better than either of the first 2 groups.
Good observation, but I feel like the cars are equally as matched in this group, about as good as any as well.
And we talk about the guys all having new tires on. I look out the window, which I'm not supposed to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. And Ross Chastain, he's on the old tires out there. It's kind of like he's that jammer car on the racetrack. He's having to get out of the way from all these guys with all these new tires on him while he's out there on old tires, because they catch him so quick.
1 minute to go.
You can just see the entry speed, the difference in the grip level on those tires. Look how much he has to back the corner up compared to the 9 car behind him. He's going to let him go right here. Oof.
Yeah, they're working together pretty nice right now. That won't be the case as it gets dark tonight, Clint.
Can't afford it. You're going to block. You're going to do everything you can do to make that car wide. We've seen it every Saturday night of the Madhouse has existed.
This was built as a football field in 1937 during the Depression. It was a Works Progress Administration project to put people to work and get them some paychecks. They played football here, then they started racing midgets, and then NASCAR came along in 1949, sanctioned the track, and they've raced here ever since.
It's kind of still a football field, but
it is.
Automobiles now.
Yeah, it started out Wake Forest played here. They played Duke in the first game ever.
No, I mean when you come here on a weekly Saturday night, it's still kind of a football game.
Looks like football, a lot of blocking and tackling. Yeah, I get it. Winston-Salem State now uses this as their football stadium. They're just up the hill here. Christopher Bell, fastest in practice. Qualifying coming up.
Press box, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, how do you tell the world that we lost Dale Earnhardt today?
One of Dale's very best friends was Mike Hilton.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make.
And those words flew across the world.
We've lost Dale Earnhardt.
I'm a rookie at Daytona 500.
I was 8 years old.
Fox hired me.
We were all there.
Malcolm in the Middle had premiered. I was probably one of the last people to talk to Dale Earnhardt the day he died.
The badass of all badasses.
Dale Earnhardt takes the checkered flag. That's what fella asked me.
All of us were lost puppies without an owner.
You remember what life was like before that day, and you remember what life has been like after that day.
The show premieres Thursday night on FS1. It's not about the race. It's not about the crash. It's not about the telecast. It's about what we lost in this sport. You'll want to watch it. There's downtown Winston-Salem. You see the Winston Tower. And they're still addressing the weepers in entering turn 1 and entering turn 3. Want to get that dried up before qualifying begins.
I feel like that's been my life for the last couple days. Backpack blower and a shovel.
Here are the 10 fastest drivers after 2 rounds of practice. Monday at Bowman Gray. Winston-Salem State students, couple of cup drivers, Stenhouse and Gilliland, minor league hockey players, they all came out to clear the grandstand of snow so that we could run here this evening. Now, it's piled up all around the facility, and some of it right behind the safer barrier is melting on this, the warmest day of the last 2 weeks, and out onto the racetrack. Not too much of that is going to impact competition, but entering turn 1 and entering turn 3 up in the outside groove are going to be a couple of wet spots there. Larry Mack?
Yeah, Mike, of course, tonight is all about being good on the long run. You guys have been driving that point home, but now this practice here, it's about a short run. It's about cutting that qualifying lap. What are some things they may adjust? They'll probably pump the air pressure up, get heat in those tires quicker, maybe get the shocks a little more aggressive just to drive the tires in. They may adjust the blades on the sway bar. But Clint, Kevin, what's one thing your crew chief would always do at any racetrack when he put fresh tires on? What would he do to that race car?
Pump them babies up.
Well, the answer is fill it up with fuel. You can't do that here. You cannot fill the car up with fuel until before the last chance qualifier or the clash itself. So the crew chief has to make adjustments, knowing the balance of the car is going to be different with the fuel level down.
Yeah, and as that balance is tighter typically, because you're taking the weight out of the back of the car. So that's an interesting piece of the puzzle here that they got to figure out as that fuel has burned off.
So there are 2 goals right here. One, as we've been saying, make the race. The top 20 cars in qualifying transfer directly into the clash. Everybody else goes into the last chance qualifier. But also, and we'll see this when we get to round 3. Every time we've run the clash on a quarter-mile racetrack, the winner started in the first 2 rows.
Well, that's that agenda that I was talking about earlier. I think you've got multiple agendas. In this group right here, the agenda is let's get in this race. These guys, a lot of these cars are back in the back half, that right side of the sheet, if you will, and Ryan Preece is one of them. This 60 car, he was a good car. That Cole Custer, his car is extremely fast, you see right there. But this is the one that needs to pick up. He was all the way down to 27th place.
Yeah, and Ryan Preece has been so good, and we know his history on these short tracks. So you're going to have to find some speed right here to be able to put yourself in this race. And you see Cole Custer trying to stack the field up because the car in front of him is Burt Myers, who's been a little bit off the pace, and he does not want to catch that car at the wrong time when his tires are in the premium spot to make a fast lap.
Well, Myers now fastest over Fincham and Priest. Change that, Ty Dillon. No. Noah Gregson. No. Riley Herbst. Changing faster than we can say it.
And that's a great point, and this is going to be hard to keep track of here because these speeds should theoretically, if you look at these practice speeds, pick up as we go through these groups. So these guys are going to have to put a lap down as best they can and then be patient and pray.
Look at that pylon. It changes quickly. Now Priest establishes himself quickest in this group.
And I'd say that that's going to be the way that it's going to happen until you get to lap 7 or 8.
Well, that's a little bit faster than he ran in practice. His best lap in practice was a 14:47. There's a 14:29.
Well, and that's the art of these qualifying fast laps, is being able to, some of these guys are really good at being able to find a little bit in their car that they didn't have, while they can have those fresh tires on there to be able to pick up some speed. So
car looks tight to me. He's struggling to keep it down on the bottom of the racetrack. I know he's probably diamonding the car a little bit as well. There's a little bit faster, but look how far he's up the racetrack.
2 minutes to go.
Well, and this is a lot of times this is the way it goes. You see some guys, you're going to see some guys that had really good practice speeds, some guys that had really slow speeds, but there's nothing like the pressure and having to make it happen when it counts. And that's what's happening right now with this group. You see Cole Custer down there in third, Ryan Priest. We talk about him being down the chart, at the top of the charts.
Now Cole Custer, he has caught Burt Myers. That's the last thing he wanted to do, was have to deal with another car during this session.
And that's why he was trying to get that spacing at the beginning of the run. But he would almost been better off starting right on their bumper just to get some heat in the tires, because now he's in those money laps and he just wasted one.
Well, 2 of them, actually, in my opinion, because he didn't get him past. So now this is the first time that he's had a clear opening getting into turn 1 where he could hold the car out. That was 2 laps wasted. A lot of goodie out of the tires.
Minute to go.
And we think they're beyond the point of putting down another fast lap. So
there's Priest out.
As they're on lap 11 right here, we think that window is somewhere between 7, 8, 9, to get those fast laps in. So we're well beyond that point. It doesn't take long for them to click off.
Ty Dillon fourth in this group of 7.
Yeah, and the cutoff point in practice to make that top 20 was a 14:40. So,
and that's about a 2/10 pickup, Kevin. I'm glad you said that. It took me right where I was needing to be. That's 2/10 overall for this group, with their pressures built up and everything Larry told us that they were going to do for qualifying trim, faster than they were in practice.
About 1 more lap, and we'll be done with qualifying for Group 1.
Now, I think those laps are, I think the goodie is out of those tires as we were talking about, and I think you've got what you got here. Now you got to be patient and wait and see how much these other groups pick up.
All right, time has expired. They'll come back to the line. But to your point, Clint, over the last 3 laps, nobody improved over their fast time. So Ryan Priest is quickest. Will that hold up to be one of the top 20 when we're done? We'll see. Welcome back to Bowman Gray. Group 2 on track for its qualifying session. What's it going to take to be in the top 20 when this is over? Connor Zilic there with work to do.
Yeah.
Daniel Suarez jumps up.
And we've seen Zilic have a couple of pretty big lockups already. And the other thing that's a little bit deceiving on our lap count right here, good lap by Connor right there, puts him P2. But these guys took about 3 laps slow, so a little bit deceiving. So really, they're only on about lap 5 right now.
That's a good point, but I think you still need to be in a teen right here to be comfortable or even feeling good about your chances and staying out of that LCQ.
Now bumping will begin after 20 cars have taken to the track.
And Connor, you're keeping an eye on him. It's almost every single time now, like you talked about earlier, Kevin, that once you flat spot that tire, every time you get in the corner and are hard braking, it finds that flat spot.
And you see AJ Allmendinger right here, P5.
1 minute to go.
It looks like at this point everybody has started to go the other way on their tires. So You know, it's really about that lap 8 mark that we talked about is kind of where it jumps over the edge of being faster.
45 seconds, so 3 more laps.
And as we would say, a lot of times at this point, you're just out there burning gas.
Right.
You might see somebody pop off a miracle lap here and there, but for the most part, the goodie is all gone, as you would say, Clint.
Yeah, but you got to keep hope alive, Kev. You can't just give up on hope.
Hope is a terrible strategy.
Dangerous strategy.
That's a terrible strategy.
So Zilich and Suarez fastest in Group 1B.
It's in a racer. You have to try. Racers just can't help themselves. You're going to try. If there's an opportunity, you're going to try.
Yeah, like the last lap for Connor there was over 4/10 slower than his quick lap.
His left front tire is very angry.
Session is over.
It's square. No longer round.
And it's a little bit hard as we see Ryan Preece and Connor Zilich up top from this first session of cars that have been split up into 2 groups here. But it's a little hard to know because Group 1 has been at such a disadvantage with when they went on the racetrack, how they put their tires on, to know where you need to be until we see this second group run and know what the pickup is going to be with some of those cars that have already put on new tires.
All right, Group 1 is done, 13 cars. We'll move to Group 2, and again, we'll split them in half. So there'll be 6 or 7 cars.
There you go, you said it again, Mike.
Well, I think definitely, you know, going back to what you just said, somebody's going to have to stand out here. Looking at this practice sheets, I mean, these were the cars that were at the back half of the sheet. Somebody has to stay, you know, separate themselves from this group, and that's why I said and alluded to a teen. Something, a 14 teen needs to be, football fans here. Got a game going on this weekend, but it's just kind of.
I haven't.
And none of those teams are in it.
I never really. I don't even know who is in it.
You don't even pay attention anymore now. The Chiefs are no longer in the game.
Worrying about next year. Look at that checkered flag. I like that. Nothing better. Best looking color combination ever. Elliott fan.
Everybody wearing their cookout scarves that they got on the way in. Cool.
Well, this section of people love racing. They would fall into the category of hardcore fans, and when you look at the TV ratings and all the things that happen, these are rabid fans of racing in general.
Regan.
Mike Bubba Wallace, one of the cars that'll go out in group number 5 in a little bit, but you've had a chance now to watch 2 groups go in these qualifying sessions. What have you learned? And I saw your teammate Riley Herbst over here talking to you. Get a little tip from him maybe or anything?
Yeah, just with the 2 different groups, he's on track while Tyler and I are over here debriefing. So finally got a chance to catch up, and all 3 of our balances sound very similar. So yeah, it's good to be in a race car here at Bowman Gray. A little cold, but I feel good about our Robin Hood Camry. I told the guys over the radio, like rolling out, like, let's use this as a test session, figure out where our weaknesses are. I'm already nervous. I want to make qualifying. I want to make the show.
Mike, there you hear it. These guys all want to just make the show. That's the main focus still down here.
Well, and those nerves are tough because that just like when you go out on the racetrack for the very first time for practice, all that anticipation and all that adrenaline, that starts again right now because you know that the money is on the line and you know how important it is to put yourself in a position to lock in the field. So there's a lot of pressure on these guys to make these laps as good as possible, and so easy to mess up, so easy to lock a tire up, so easy to get the car locked sideways, getting in the gas too soon. So much speed is made by being right on the edge, but so much speed is lost by tipping right over it.
And because of this format, or basically about half the cars go home, this is really, in my opinion, the most pressure that these teams will face all year long, without a doubt. I mean, yes, we go to Daytona and there might be 2 or 3 cars go home, but not half the field like here.
38 cars, 15 go home. 20 qualify through time trials here, 2 from the last chance qualifier, and then 1 to the highest driver in last year's standings, not yet in the field. 23 will start, 15 will not.
Give or take. I knew it wasn't half, but it's a bunch of cars. I wanted to see
Oh, Hocevar to the top.
At a 22, man, just barely right there, still in these 20s.
And that's pretty early in this session. I mean, you know, we saw him ride around for 2 or 3 laps, and now we're starting to see Kyle Busch to the top of the board, but Hocevar was the first one to click it off there. So 4, 5, 6, 7 lap count here.
There it is, Gibbs. A lot of lockups. He's talking about overdriving that corner when we were previewing these qualifying laps. That is the #1 thing you can't do.
So 20 cars make it on time. Expressed another way, you have to beat 18 cars. So when this group is done, we'll know at least 2 cars that are going to be locked into the field on time.
There's that team that I was talking about.
And that's the fastest lap that we've seen all weekend so far, that 14-14.
Wow.
Christopher Bell was 14-19 in practice, so.
About a minute and a half left.
He laid off.
Yeah, and right now, when you look at that lap by Ty Gibbs, there's a couple of these guys that put themselves in a position to pretty much lock themselves into the race. So 20 cars have gone so far. My math is bad, Mike.
Well, that was my point. Yeah, go ahead.
You add it up then.
Gibbs and Hocevar can lock in right here.
Well, he told us just a second ago there's 15 cars that are going home.
I want you.
So look up here, and like you look at Zillage, Suarez, Priest, those guys are nervous. They're in trouble. Probably a LCQ in their future coming up.
Well, and I think what we were talking about earlier when you looked at that first group and what they picked up, you know, I think that now we're seeing some of the cars that we thought were a little bit better than most of those cars in the first group. That speed hasn't increased by as much as what the speeds did from Ryan Priest and Connor Zillage.
Now, those 2 won't lock in automatically. We've still got the rest of Group 2 to run here. But if I was the 54-77, I'd be feeling pretty good right now.
I think so, and I think you nailed it with those. We might dip into the O's to be on the front row, but we're starting to see some pretty good cars with those lap times that we can get a good reference off of.
Going into this, I was just telling myself I wanted to see a teen in my lap time, and I think I would be comfortable staying out of the LCQ.
Pretty happy. I felt like I had a little bit more pace.
That was Carson Hocevar, and indeed he did. So with 18 cars behind them, Gibbs and Hocevar should be locked into the top 20, and they will not be in the LCQ.
Well, and you heard Carson reference right there. I felt like I had a little more speed in the car, and as a driver, that's the first thing you start doing. Well, I felt like I could have got into the corner a little harder. I could have released the brake a little bit to get the roll speed up. I could have, you know, rushed the throttle a little bit more, but it's such a fine line to be able to not step over it. So instantly you heard the driver start analyzing himself on what he could have done better.
Well, he did just fine. Now the Great American Race returns with back-to-back champ William Byron looking for an historic three-peat. Doesn't get any bigger than the 68th running of the Daytona 500, February 15th, only on Fox. Let's see just how on the edge these drivers are trying to get a quick lap in qualifying.
Entered really low, stayed low.
Ooh, and that's the same type of scenario that we talked about with Christopher Bell. That, you know, you got as much rear brake in the car as you can. That's a left front lockup right there by Corey LaJoie. So 2 totally different braking strategies right there as far as their balance and the way that the car is set up. And this car, the 43 car of Eric Jones right there, he and his teammate have both struggled a little bit to make speed, and you see him right there like, what the heck? My tire keeps locking up.
Won't stop.
Bad news here when it won't stop.
No good.
Now the drivers below Hocevar could still qualify on time. We'll look at the bottom 18, and that will help us develop the top 20 as we go through Group 2B here.
Yeah, for me, it's not the go home yet. It's the staying out of the LCQ, and that Priest, Zillage, Suarez right in there, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Those guys are, I think they're on the bubble.
So what do you think the bubble is going to be? You think it's going to be the? You think it's going to be that low 20?
I think it's going to be a low 20. A 22.
22.
There you go.
We have pinpointed.
You asked. I delivered.
Precise
22,
bubble number. I think it's going to be a little slower than that. Not much.
22 and a half.
All right, so after this Group 2B runs, anybody who is above that point, top 6, will be locked in. Here, you can clear this because they moved it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Got you.
Thank you.
48 car right here. Alex Bowman had a fast car in practice. See if he can back that up. Come on, baby. Whoa, big lockup.
And that's, we've talked about that a lot today, but on these cold tires, and that's part of the thing that you have to do from the driver's standpoint. You got to get the temperature up in these tires the proper way and not slide that tire, because when they're cold like that, that left front tire is super easy to slide.
Well, the other aspect is you get that the cars have more grip in them on the launch up off the corner. That means they get off in the corner, in the next corner even harder with more speed, so harder to slow down. That's a little bit of what you see with a wheel lock up as well. And hey, I need to go faster. Let me get off in the corner a little deeper.
Well, and you see Josh Berry right here, and before we put him on the camera, he had 2 big lockups getting into turn 3, a little bit loose right there under braking into turn 1. So he's definitely battling that car. He knows that his speed was not where it needed to be in practice, and this is the time you just let it all hang out and see what happens and hope that it sticks.
Here's a look at it.
These tires are really sensitive to temperature and making the maximum grip that they need to adhere to the racetrack. So you got to creep up on it, but you got to go. It's a fine balance.
Austin Dillon, good lap for him. He wasn't the best. He was 20th on the sheet at a 14:40 in practice. Big pickup there.
And that's the unique part about this racetrack and how fine of a line it is. He ran a 21 as his fast lap, and he backed it up with a 42. So it just doesn't take much to really knock a 10th or 2 out of that lap time.
Larry, we're seeing a lot of these left front lockups. Is this not a new left side tire for these teams to wrestle with?
It's pretty much the softest left side tire we've run anywhere, Mike. But you guys are talking about corner entrance speed. Remember earlier in the show we talked about 80 more horsepower. We looked at the numbers from Bowman Gray last year and calculated the numbers for this year. They're entering the corner 5, 6, 7 miles per hour faster than they were a year ago. What does that lead to? Over 100 more pounds of brake pressure. And when they're in traffic tonight, it couldn't even get more than that. So that's another thing that just kind of adds to the lockup.
And it's exactly why we all have been asking for more horsepower. Kevin, you and I have been on the same page in this for so many years. Horsepower usually doesn't mean that it's going any faster, because you got to slow that thing down. Your center corner speed goes down. Your brakes become an issue like we used to have in the past, because that thing's going faster down the straightaways, just like he just said.
Now, I don't know where Ryan Preece is watching from, but right now he is on the hot seat. 6 drivers will lock in at the end of this session.
Where's he at, Kevin? Okay, say it. Say it.
He's a 14:23 is his time. You said 14:22. But I just don't believe that these groups are going to pick up as much as the first groups did in some of those cars that were off, like Preece. We've seen the pickup be a little bit smaller than what that first group had.
And let me correct. Enough about 6s and 7s. 8 drivers are going to be locked in at the end of this, because that means there are 18 drivers behind them.
See, this
so
is why I didn't go down the math route, because there needed to be somebody way smarter than me figuring this out.
I made a right. I should have taken a left. So Preece is going to be in along with Zilich and Suarez and Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher from this group. They will be in the clash tonight, those top 8.
Drivers never been very good at math anyway. No. I mean, if you think about it, we've got 4 corners we sell, but only 2 ends.
Here's Austin Cindric getting up. Now, you see how that wall bows out there? That's after the bow, right at start finish.
Oh, that's perfect.
Just a little kiss.
Did you see him pull it off the wall, and then the back of the car step out?
Austin Dillon.
Perfect.
Regan.
Well, Ryan Preece, one of the guys that just got locked in after that. Ryan, you had to go out in the very first group. You told me earlier today you were nervous about that. So how nice is it to know that you're good for the main event tonight now?
I feel a lot better than I did this past week, I can tell you that. And, you know, I've run a lot of short tracks, so I know if you're in the first couple sets that go out, you're at just a massive disadvantage. So, you know, Derek made some great adjustments between the first and second round, and then going into qualifying, you know, we leaned on Chris a little bit, and I feel like we have a pretty solid car. So at least we're in the show. I'm gonna go back to the trailer, get myself a nice cold Coca-Cola, and I'm looking forward to seeing this Kroger Ford Mustang in the race tonight.
I enjoy being able to relax for just a moment here.
I don't relax.
All right, Preece, Zilich, and Suarez locked in from the first group. Everybody else in the top 8 were in the second group.
Larry, what is this? Is this a little sun coming out? Could this heat this track up a little bit? You think that'll dictate a performance, the speed of these cars a little bit for these guys?
Clint, a little bit of heat would be wonderful right now, trust me. Yeah, it definitely would put a little more heat in the racetrack, but I think the sun is maybe what provoked some of these weepers coming out from underneath the safer barriers earlier as well.
All right, 6 cars, Group 3A, 6 cars at Group 3B. So at the end of 3B, we'll know who the 20 drivers are.
One thing that I noticed when we were looking at those shots of those guys getting up next to the wall, if you look right here, Clint, there's a little at the end of this wall. If you could just pan down, there you go. There's this little puddle right here, and it's like they get right next to the wall and they hit that little puddle right there, and it kind of makes the back of the car step out when you get too close to the fence.
You can see where they've just barely been touching it before that up in here, just a little bit, just a kiss.
Yeah. So maybe my statement of that being perfect when it's right up next to the wall isn't quite right because it's all wet.
Quite a bit of water right there for sure, and that's going to really upset the entrance of your corner when you get down to turn 1. Stay out of that. And that's where a spotter can help you. He needs to be paying attention to this and saying, hey, watch these weepers, keep those tires dry.
Yeah, and from a driver's standpoint, inside the race car, when you go out of the pits right there, when you know you're in a situation like that with these weepers, you got to know where they are.
I'm also watching turn 1, and it's got 2 of them that are starting to inch down the racetrack, and that's getting these guys to where, if you look at that, the entrance of this corner is getting more narrow. They're having to drive that thing straighter into the corner than they want to. You want to be able to hold it out, but you can't because of the weeper. That is going to dictate the rhythm that you knew of this racetrack before you went out here.
You couldn't have timed that any better. You were drawing on the screen as Ross Chastain was shooting up the racetrack right in your mark.
We had a conversation.
So at the end of this group, my math teacher next door tells me 14 drivers will be locked in.
I don't know if I would trust him with the math, but
well, with another 6 in the final.
He's all we've got, so we'll go with it.
Keep an eye on this 22.
5th already.
Yeah, and we talked about these Fords and the speed that they can make when they get the tires pumped up and go into these qualifying sessions. That's a little bit more than a lot of the other teams can make. They have some things that they do to the car. Big lockup, got loose. I don't know if he hit that wall right there.
But it was a good lap for him. I think he just drove the car and got off the corner really well. That lap before that probably put him in the show. Maybe not where he wanted to be at a 19, but I think that'll get him in the show as far as the not having to be in the LCQ.
So looking at the top 14, all the drivers on track right now are in the top 20. Will be in the top 20.
I think when I start looking at this group, Reddick, you saw him, Chase Elliott, last year's winner. He wants to be a little higher than where he's at right now. Hard to win this thing if you're further back than a single-digit starting spot, in my opinion.
Well, it's definitely going to be tough to do what Ryan Blaney did last year and come from the back of the field into the fence.
Whoa, look out.
Yeah, he hit the fence right there off of turn 4, and then when you pull that thing back off the wall, those things are snapping sideways.
Chase Elliott is 5th.
That one actually got into the tire a little bit.
And that cost him 1.6 seconds against his fast lap.
Yeah, I think he just backed it down right there. Probably scared the crap out of him. Had to do a quick check to make sure everything was clear.
Everybody's in this group. All 6 drivers are going to make it. It's just a question of where will they start. And the only one that's outside the top 6 is Joey Logano. He is currently 9th. The others up there. And Van Gisbergen in 11th. The goal is to start in the top 2 rows because that's where the winners have come from here at Bowman Gray and at the LA Coliseum.
And that's exactly what I was talking about with this car right here, Chase Elliott, and why he was trying so hard. I don't think that 19, it's not those top 2 starting rows like you talked about.
And I think it's fair to say in qualifying you're willing to take a few more chances as far as how close you are to the wall, how soon you get to the throttle. In your mind, from the driver's standpoint, from practice to what you do in qualifying, and especially these guys, they've been able to watch the other drivers and make those adjustments in their mind to say, okay, a little less brake, a little sooner on the throttle, whatever that adjustment is from the driver's seat.
So right now, the one driver with a possibility is Josh Berry, but his only way into the top 20 is if one of the drivers in the final 6 has trouble. Otherwise, he's on the pole for the LCQ. Let's go back and show you what happened to Chase Elliott that resulted in a lap that was a 1.5 seconds slower than his fast lap.
Yeah, he just tried to get too much right there, and you got to pull you don't want the thing to sit there and grab the right front on the wall, so you pull it back off the wall and it snap the back out, because as you see that little knob that hangs out of the racetrack, yeah, I agree.
I think he may have got in some water there, guys, even before he hit the wall.
And I think that 6 inches up next to the wall where we saw on the front straightaway, I think that whole thing is wet all the way around the racetrack.
I do too. I was just looking at him getting into turn 3 even before he hit the wall. That car got pretty sideways, and I think I see some weepers coming out of the backstretch wall there.
You know, to put this in perspective, more snow fell here in the Triad over the last week than at any time in the last 22 years since they've had this much snow. We got 3 or 4 inches last week that caused the first postponement. 8 to 10 inches of nice and fluffy that was pretty easy to deal with, as we showed you the video earlier.
That's that weeper I was talking about. I think Chase Elliott got his right rear in it, and that slid up into the wall.
All right, final group here. And this will determine the lock-in for the top 20. Right now, everyone down to Ryan Preece, Zilich, and Suarez is in the top 20.
You're going to be a mile off, Clint.
Mile?
Yeah. It's going to be a 24 instead of a 22, so that's light years.
It is on a track this small, isn't it?
It is.
Green flag waves for 4 minutes.
Well, if you're sitting in Josh Berry's shoes, these are nervous times that you're sitting back there depending on one of these guys that are on the racetrack to not go faster than you. And I look at the numbers and the drivers and the teams on the in and on these cars. Slim chance that doesn't happen.
I think if you're going to be on the pole of Bowman Gray Clash right here, it's going to have a 0 after that 4. 1, 4, 0 something.
Man, you're to the 100 today.
Yep. And it's going to probably happen right here.
That's the most details I've heard out of you in a long time.
Good looking hot rod.
This is officially Clint's favorite car paint scheme.
These weepers are going to continue to be a problem, though. They're going to have to stay down the straightaways. That crowds their entrance. That takes some speed out of that. These guys are going to have to navigate around that, and it's only going to get worse.
And I would assume that the spotters and the crew chiefs have fed all that information, especially when you talk about the Hendrick cars and the 9 car getting in that water. So they will be fed a lot of information. Christopher Bell, that last lap into turn 1, had a massive lockup.
And nobody has yet run a lap.
Bell's loose
in the top 20.
Well, loose in the entrance of the corner. He was in practice, wasn't he?
Practice, that's right.
All right, Larson's in, Hamlin's in.
Keep an eye on this Blaney off of 4.
Way in.
Byron up to the top of the board. Larson
picking up. Another lockup out of the 24, William Byron.
And they're all just going for it. I mean, you know that you went in there plenty good the lap before. You know you have to get everything that you can getting in the corner, and it's just you got to find that edge. And there's a bunch of them smoking the tires, and then the next lap you go back and you make that adjustment as we see Larson up to the top of the board.
All right, they're all in. All 6 of these drivers are in the top 20. The top 20 is set. It's just a matter of where will they start.
Not a great start for Blaney.
No, 16th.
We watched him drive all the way through the field. It looks like he's going to have to do that again. Well, it's a miracle doesn't happen.
It's way better than last year. Yeah, he's not going to have to start last, so won't be far in front of that unless he picks it up.
He started last, and by halfway, at the halfway break, he was in the top 10. Didn't quite get to the lead ever, but heck of a show for the 12 car.
Well, we know this car is usually takes a little bit longer to get going than some of the other cars. That lap he ran a 22, lap before a 21, so still some speed left in that 12 car to pick up just a touch.
1 minute to go. Blaney stuck in 16th. His last lap mirrored his best lap within 100th, but no improvement.
Well, I still feel like that Ryan Blaney on the long run will be a car to contend with everything that we know about that group.
I'll tell you what, these cars are pretty consistent right here. Look at the Gibbs boys. 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
All within 5/100ths of a second.
I'd say them things are pretty close setup-wise, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, and that's on the short tracks. We've seen those Gibbs cars be really good, but you look at they're very consistent, but at the top of the board is still those Hendrick cars of Kyle Larson and William Byron. So.
And you talk about the top of the board. That's a 13 with a 7 against a 14 with a 0, 14, 5, 14 with a 7 and a 9. I mean, that is amazing how tight those lap times are.
Yeah. The 4 Gibbs cars are within half a hundred. That's 5/1000.
Sounds like we're calling pro stock races.
Yes. And qualifying is done. We now know the top 20, and we know who will get the provisional starting position as well.
Well, you mentioned those Hendrick cars, Clint. You look at Alex Bowman down there in 25th.
Didn't get to the flat, but it's pretty tight racing. I think we're in store for a good one.
And there's how the main will line up. 2 Chevys ahead of 4 Toyotas. 5 Toyotas and a Ford. Chris Buescher, the first Ford in that group. Chase Elliott, defending winner, back in row 6. Daniel Suarez anchors the top 20. And right now we know that Alex Bowman is the highest driver in last year's championship points, and he'll have a spot in the feature. Kyle Larson is fastest. We'll check out the LCQ lineup after this. Welcome back to Winston-Salem. Let's go down to the pits in Regan.
Well, Mike, 2025 Series champion, Cup Series champion Kyle Larson. What a difference a year makes in terms of the Clash. Last year in the Clash had to race through the LCQ to make the main event. This year you're going to lead the field to the green.
Yeah, it'd be fun to be a fan and actually get to watch it, because that's a really stressful race, at least it was for me last year. So, yeah, caught a bit off guard there. I was not expecting to get the pole, and 2, we have lap times on our dash. I never saw anything close to a 13 on my dash. So the quickest I saw was like a 23, I think. So I was like, well, I mean, at least I'm in the show, but it's not very good. And then so I was like trying to push, and then Cliff came on and said we were quick time for the moment. So I was like, wow, I wish I would have had the proper lap time on my dash, because I maybe could have went a little bit better if I just settled down. So, but yeah, thanks to everybody on our HendrickCars.com Chevy. Good to be back in a stock car here, and you'll see if we can take care of it here in the race. Glad to qualify well, but it's still, a lot can go on, and the increased horsepower I think is going to make things a bit more challenging for saving tires. So we'll see, but I felt like we made our car better throughout practice, so hopefully we can have a decent shot here.
You mentioned that increase in horsepower, and we've seen more fall off and everything that's going on through this practice session. So with all that said, what do you anticipate the racing overall is going to look like? and this is the second year. I think everybody knows a little bit more what's coming at them. Is it going to be a little rougher tonight than what we saw last year?
As far as rougher, I don't know. I mean, it depends on kind of when it starts and who's in it, and then everybody kind of gets carried away after that. But as far as the horsepower and all that, it definitely, I mean, I feel like you can tell a little bit here from what I remember anyways. So, yeah, we'll see. I just imagine, to be just, you got to really, watch how you're loading the tires on exit, which is not something I'm good at doing on these style of tracks. So we'll see. But I don't think you're going to see much different, for at least half the run. But, hopefully the tires get hot and wear out a little quicker and guys are struggling and you'll see some, comers and goers.
All right, Larry Mack, Kyle Larson's going to lead him to green. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Regan, I'm here with rookie Connor Zilic. Connor, you're going to start deep, 19th, but the key word, you're going to start. You're locked in. You don't have to worry about that last chance qualifier.
Yeah, it's going to be nice being able to watch the last chance race from the grandstands and not have to be in it. So that was our goal coming into today, was just to be able to make it in the show and lock in. So yeah, grateful for the entire Trackhouse team. We've worked really hard this offseason to get everyone up to speed and get everyone ready. And yeah, good way to start the year.
Well, Mike, a couple of weeks ago, he was racing in the Rolex 24. Now he's going to race at the Madhouse.
Yeah, he nearly won it within a second and a half of his team going to victory lane. Well, LCQ coming up. Kyle Larson's excited about it. Connor Zillich's excited about it. What do you think?
Well, to take a couple, I think you got to put the bumper to them. You got to start up front. You got to be aggressive.
Well, I look at the front of this LCQ, and you've got Josh Berry, who was obviously pretty aggressive last year in that race, and Michael McDowell, Cindric. So you got some guys at the front of the LCQ that are definitely going to be pushing and shoving, and you're going to have to push and shove. You're going to have to be aggressive to get yourself in one of those top two spots.
I think Alex Bowman, I think his car's a little bit better than what he showed in qualifying. Watch for him to make some moves. Sorry, he's a provisional. He ain't going to be in it. Don't worry about him.
But it'll be a battle for those 2 spots to make the main event. All right. We'd like you to go to your local Fox station where you will see the LCQ at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by the NASCAR Clash at Bowman Gray. It's all coming up tonight on Fox.